Welcome to English Express. No glamour, no clamor, simple explanation for last moment revision. Today we are taking up Act 4 of Macbeth. If we look into the depth of the play, this section of Macbeth is an interpolation section, which implies there is something extra happening. Macbeth, for the first time, seeks out the witches, insecure about his future. He wishes to know what lies ahead of him. And when he finds the witches, he is literally very abrasive, very demanding, and commands the witches to interpret what are his future threats. The witches, who are seen prior to this, are surrounding a cauldron and adding in all negative elements into the cauldron and making it bubble, which highlights the negative aspect of the witches, how they are ruling the underworld, how they are ruling the negative. So, again, giving us or letting us go back to the theme of Macbeth, which is interpreted in Act 1, that is, fair is foul and foul is fair. So, what is unfair in the human world, unjust in the human world, is fair in the witch's world. For example, the stuff, to mention just a few, if we see that the poisoned entrails they throw into the cauldron, or sweltered venom sleeping got. So, the sweated out poison incubated in sleep. All of these items are being added to the cauldron, even as they add other elements into the cauldron. Liver of a blaspheming Jew, or the root of a hemlock, which is a poisonous plant. Blaspheming Jew, someone who is a non believer of religion, or even a Tartar's lips. All of these highlight the negative aspect. Finger of a baby strangled at birth, delivered by a prostitute in a ditch. All of these negative elements add to the purity in evil. Just like we have purity in goodness, so there is also purity in the demonic, in the evil. And during this time, Macbeth makes his entry and demands to know what lies ahead in his future. His in depth belief in the witches highlights that he is definitely into a trap set by the witches for him. And this is the height of equivocation or quibbling, where the witches misinterpret or misguide Macbeth further, making him steep further and believe further in his and live with a false sense of security. When Macbeth demands to know what lies ahead, the witches, by adding the sow's blood, which is a female pig, which had eaten her 9 piglets, which had eaten up her litter, and also with the grease sweaten from the murder's gibbet throw. In other words, the oil that is left from the gallows was thrown into the flame, after which Macbeth gets a clear idea and delves into the apparitions which predict his future. The first apparition is that of an armed head, which predicts that Macbeth should be aware and be careful of Macduff, which heightens Macbeth's fear. But the appearance of the second apparition, a bloody child, which states that Macbeth need not fear any man born of a woman, which clearly states that Macbeth has taken the literal meaning of every word uttered by the apparitions. He doesn't have the in-depth analysis of how these ideas could be thoroughly misguiding. And therefore, when he hears this, be bloody bold and resolute, laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. Macbeth is overjoyed and rather believing in this false sense of security that he has vested in the witches. With the appearance of the third apparition, a child crowned with a tree in his hand, It further adds to the sense of false security in Macbeth when it predicts and says, "Be lion mettled proud and take no care, who chafes, who frets, or where conspirers are. Macbeth shall never vanquished be, until great Burnham Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him." In other words, the Dunsinane Woods, the woods, the tree held up by the child is indicative of the Dunsinane woods that will be moving up to his castle. And like the Burnham woods, sorry, would be moving up to his castle. And that is where Macbeth's, you know, defeat would begin. And obviously, Macbeth is absolutely inflated with his pride and overjoyed at the fact that because never can the woods really rise up and walk up to his castle. So, therefore, with these three interpretations, he wishes to know further that what would happen to his upcoming future, whether Banquo's issues ever reign in this kingdom. That is his next question. And witches state, "Seek to know no more," but Macbeth says he would be satisfied, but if he is denied this, then an eternal curse would fall upon the witches, stating that he is possessed by his flawed fame and he is literally commanding the supernatural powers which are negative. He feels that he has control over the negative world. The cauldron descends and hot boys are seen, and it is also seen that there is a show of 8 kings and the last with a glass in his hand, and followed by Banquo's ghost, which further instigates Macbeth's insecurities. And Macbeth is not satisfied because Banquo, as he exits the scene along with the show of kings who is holding up mirrors in their the last one of the 8 kings that are shown, the last one holds up a glass in his hand, which clearly depicts that there are more in the generation that will follow, and there will be a lineage of kings from Banquo's end, which further insecures Macbeth. So all of these makes Macbeth a little upset and depressed. But at the same time, Macbeth is satisfied that his Macbeth cannot be defeated until the three apparitions and their interpretations come true. And that is the moment when Lennox informs Macbeth that Macduff has escaped and fled to England, and Macbeth believes that Macduff is a future threat. So, therefore, he decides that he will, if he cannot have Macduff in his hand, he can't get his hand on Macduff. Therefore, his anger is further triggered and he wishes to avenge Macduff by taking revenge on his son and wife, which highlights the most heinous and most hateful part of Macbeth as a man, as a king of Scotland. The second scene discloses how Lady Macduff is confronted by Ross, who has come to warn Lady Macduff to remain safe. At this point of time, Lady Macduff feels betrayed because her husband has fled to England, leaving her and her son in a very desperate situation. Lady Macduff is pretty much distressed and upset and feels that her husband is a traitor. And when she goes on to explain the same to her son interprets and says that his father is not a traitor and that he should simply take situation as it comes. And when the exchange is on, at that very moment, the murderers appear and sought after the two, the flippancy between the conversation between Lady Macduff and her son, which was more of a flippant discussion, is takes the shape of tension and ultimately heightens the tension because they are soon murdered when a second messenger appears and tries to warn and make Lady Macduff aware of Duncan's intentions. She is stirred, but she is also equally helpless at that point of time. But soon after the messenger leaves, Macduff and her son are murdered by the murderer, and that brings in Macbeth's brutality and the level to which he has sunk, sending people to murder even a child, an innocent child, makes Macbeth more of a villain, highlighting his epitome of in villainy. Then we move on to scene 3, where we see a close discussion between Malcolm and Macduff, where Malcolm truly doubts Macduff's intentions and he feels that probably he is on Macbeth's side. But after having tested his words and found that that Macduff is basically stirred up and also learns that Macduff is against Macbeth, Malcolm befriends Macduff and both of them team up to form a battalion against Macbeth. And at that very point of time, when this conversation between the two is on, it is Malcolm and Macduff, when they are in close discussion, Ross enters and initially lies about the fact that there has been that his children and that his child and his wife are safe, but not being able to hold on to the grief for long, ultimately he vents out that Macduff has lost his son and his wife uh, as they were brutally murdered by Macbeth. Malcolm takes a very intelligent decision at this moment when Macduff is completely stirred up and he wants to take his revenge. Malcolm asks him to take control of his temperament because he will utilize the anger which Macduff bears against Macbeth to further plan the killing of Macbeth. Act 4, Scene 3 is very crucial and vital to understand how, on one side in England, the planning of Macbeth's death is being made, and on the other side, it has also alienated the audience from Macbeth, and whatever tad bit of goodness that lay in the character is completely removed from the audience's point of view, from the reader's mind, because they feel that Macbeth has stooped to a very narrow level by killing innocent people with whom he had or bore no grudge against. But since they were the family of Macduff, who was his sworn enemy, therefore Macbeth has taken or done such a heinous deed, and therefore Macduff swears to revenge the death of his children, the death of his child and his wife by killing Macbeth, when he says, "Oh, I could play the woman with mine eyes and braggart with my tongue, but gentle heavens cut short all intermission. Front to front, bring thou this fiend of Scotland and myself within my words' length. Set him. If he escape, heaven forgive him too," highlighting the heightened level of anger that Macduff bears against Macbeth. So therefore, Act 4 becomes extremely crucial to determine the coming death of Macbeth, which we will witness in Act 5. That's all for today. This this audio rather, would help you to get your facts and points together. And therefore, students, if you have any queries or any questions, please feel free to share in the comments and I shall get back to you. Thank you.